You will hear 4 different recordings and you will have to answer questions on what you hear. At the end of each recording, you will get some time to check your work. The test is in 4 parts. Now turn to part 1. Part 1. You will hear a conversation between a director of a drama school and a parent. First, you have some time to read questions 1 to 6. Now listen carefully and answer questions 1 to 6.
Hi, my name's Maggie. I think I spoke to you yesterday about coming in to see you about the drama classes.
Oh, yes. Hi. How can I help you?
We're new to the area and I'd like my children, Terry, Andrea and Jasmine, to join the drama classes. They love acting, singing and dancing, and they're very energetic. And I also thought it would be a good way for them to make friends.
Oh, yes. We offer dancing and singing as well as acting classes. And the club's a good place for everyone to meet new people. We have different social and family groups, and everyone here is very friendly.
Great. Can I just ask you some questions about the drama classes?
Yes, sure. What would you like to know?
What classes are there and when are they held?
Well, during the week, we have classes for different age groups. By the way, what ages are your children?
Terry's 8, Andrea's 12, and Jasmine's 16.
Well, for the youngest age group, those aged 7 to 11, the times are 5:30 p.m. to 6:30 p.m. on Tuesday evening. And for those aged 12 to 15, between 4 and 6 p.m. on Wednesday evening. And for those 16 and above, it's 6 to 8 p.m. on Friday evening.
Is there anything at the weekends?
Yes, we also have workshops on Saturdays from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m, but they're usually for older members, 18 and above. We also have social outings to theatres at discount rates, so it's possible for whole families to come. We even get free theatre tickets at times, which we announce on our website.
Oh, that's good to know. And what about school holidays?
Well, during the holidays, we run summer camps for young people up to the age of 16. These usually run from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. and 2 p.m. to 5 p.m. Monday to Friday. They are combined with the youth club activities and run during August.
And what about performances?
For each level, we aim to have at least one show a year in the summer. There is no pressure for anyone to perform, but we do encourage everyone to get involved one way or another, either acting or behind the scenes. Usually, everyone is really enthusiastic to take part.
Is it possible to have a look around?
Yes, sure. The building's used by other groups. We have no changing facilities, just a large room with lockers where people can put their things if necessary. But we advise people to come dressed for the workshops, in loose clothing and trainers.
Before you listen to the rest of the recording, you have some time to look at questions 7 to 10. Now listen carefully and answer questions 7 to 10.
Can my kids join immediately?
Yes, they can. We always ask people to come and have a go first of all. Children usually come to meet new people and then want to come back, even the shy ones.
That's a good sign. Is there a fee?
There's a joining fee of £14 a year per person, and then there's a separate fee for the Saturday workshops, but they're usually very cheap. It's just to pay the workshop trainer, as we survive on small grants and gifts.
OK. I think I'd like to bring the children along.
Great. What's your full name and address?
My name's Maggie Campbell.
Is that Campbell?
Yes.
And the address?
It's 133 Arbuthnot Drive. I'll spell it. It's Arbuthnot.
And the postcode?
It's RV27 8PB.
And the children's names again?
Terry, he'll come for the Tuesday class, so that's the 17th of March. And Andrea, she'll come for the class on the 18th of March. And Jasmine on the 20th.
Can I take a mobile number?
It's 07700 336 601.
And your email address?
It's MA.
That is the end of part 1. You now have some time to check your answers.
Now turn to part 2. You will hear a speech from a lawyer about getting legal advice at the university campus. First, you have some time to read questions 11 to 14. Listen carefully and answer questions 11 to 14.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Sally Miller, and I'm here to offer you some advice on legal matters whilst you are studying at this university. Happily, most international students complete their courses without running into any serious legal problems. But if you do find yourself involved in a legal dispute of any kind, ask for help. There are 2 options. First, contact the students' union or welfare officer. Even if they cannot help you directly, they should be able to advise you where to go for help. The second possibility is to contact the Citizens Advice Bureau in your area. You can find them in the local telephone directory. They will be able to recommend a solicitor if you need one, and tell you if there is a local law centre providing free legal advice. They will also be able to tell you whether you can claim legal aid to help pay for any court and legal fees. Let me give you some basic information about the police. The police have the power to stop and search anyone who appears to be behaving in a suspicious manner. If you are arrested for any reason, even if you know it to be a wrong reason, remember a few very important things. 1. Don't be aggressive. 2. Do not try to bribe the police officer. 3. If you're arrested by plainclothes police officers, ask to see some form of identification. 4. Give your true name and address if the officer asks you to. Lying to the police is a criminal offence. 5. Do not sign any statement until you have received advice from a solicitor. There is always a solicitor on duty at every police station. 6. You will be entitled to make one telephone call. If you use this call to telephone a friend, urge your friend to contact someone from your university or from the Students' Union and get advice about what you should do next. If you find yourself in trouble with the police, it is very important to get professional advice. Contact any of the following: your university welfare officer, the Students' Union at your university, your local Citizens Advice Bureau, a local law centre. If you are found guilty of an offence, it could seriously damage your position as an international student, so be sure to ask for help as early in the process as possible.
Before you hear the rest of the speech, you have some time to read questions 15 to 20. Listen carefully and answer questions 15 to 20.
Remember, obey the local laws. The laws here may not be quite the same as in your own country. Here are a few examples of actions that are illegal here. It is against the law to possess offensive weapons. For example, knives, guns, chemical sprays used for personal defense. Even women are not allowed to carry sprays or other deterrents to protect themselves against possible assault, except for rape alarms. Possess or supply hard or soft drugs. Disturb the peace. This is called disorderly conduct. This means that you can be arrested for being too noisy or rowdy. A few words about drinking. In this country, it is perfectly acceptable for adults to drink alcohol in moderate amounts. For many people, drinking is an established part of their social life. Going out for a drink is how they relax or spend time with friends. If you go to a party or visit people at home in the evening, your host will probably offer you a drink. Often a lot of university social life can revolve around drinking, especially for undergraduates. Do not be surprised if people arrange to meet in a bar or if events are held in a pub. But you are not obliged to drink alcohol if you do not want to, even if you are in a pub or at a party where everyone else is drinking. You can always ask for a non-alcoholic drink instead. And if you feel uncomfortable going to places that serve alcohol, explain this to your friends. There are lots of other places where you can meet. If you do choose to drink, remember that you should never drive a motor vehicle after drinking alcohol. It is dangerous, and the police can impose serious penalties on you. Also, remember that being drunk in public is not acceptable either, and the police can arrest you for it. Drugs and alcohol can cause serious problems. Let me repeat that in this country it is illegal to use drugs, except under medical supervision. But if you do use illegal drugs and you develop a problem, there are organisations you can contact. Contact your students' union or your student counsellor. Anyone over 18 years old can legally buy and consume alcoholic drinks in this country, but if you think you might be drinking too much, get help and advice from your student counsellor or your doctor. Again, there are special organisations that can help you with drug and alcohol problems. Contact them.
That is the end of part 2. You now have half a minute to check your answers. Now turn to part 3. You will hear a conversation about a market research survey for a new radio station. First, you have some time to read questions 21 to 24. Listen carefully and answer questions 21 to 24.
Excuse me, I'm conducting a campus survey. Would you have time to answer a few questions?
What's it all about?
We're doing some market research for a new campus radio station starting in the next few months.
That's okay. Sounds good.
Great. I'll just work through this form with you. And if we could start with some personal background information?
Sure.
Right. If I could have your age, please.
26.
Okay, good. And are you a student, teacher, or in another job?
Well, I'm a tutor, but I'm also a postgraduate student, so I don't know what you might call me.
What do you think?
Okay, well, I'm more of a teacher, really.
Fine. And would you mind if I asked about your salary, or I could leave it blank?
No, that's okay. It's $20,000 a year.
Thanks. Right. Now about your current listening habits. What would you say is your main reason for listening to radio?
Well, I'm usually busy during the day at work, so I usually only listen to the radio at night. It helps me relax and unwind, even if I'm studying.
Good. And how many hours a day on average do you listen to the radio?
Well, not a lot really. I'd say just over an hour all told.
Before you hear the rest of the speech, you have some time to read questions 25 to 27. Listen carefully and answer questions 25 to 27.
So, what are the two main times of the day that you listen to the radio?
Well, for a little while around breakfast time, and then it tends to be later, after dinner, when I've finished any serious work I need to do.
And what sort of radio programs do you like?
I like the news, but I also like classical music. It helps me to relax.
Fine. And turning to the new campus station, which type of programs would you prefer?
I think the existing radio stations cater for my need for news. So I'd like to see programs about local information, providing a service to the campus community. And in the same vein, perhaps more for academic viewers, some lectures or relevant programs.
Oh, I see. And if you had to give the new director some specific advice when they set up the station, what would you tell them?
I think I'd advise them to be careful about the quality of the broadcasts. The sound system. There are a lot of radio stations and people can change their loyalty quickly if it doesn't meet their needs. I think they should do more of these kinds of interview too, talking with existing and potential customers.
Oh, I'm pleased you think it's useful.
Certainly, yeah.
Good.
Before you hear the rest of the speech, you have some time to read questions 28 to 30. Listen carefully and answer questions 28 to 30.
Now, this station will not be fully funded by the university. So how often do you think it is tolerable to have adverts?
I think, out of that list, I'd say every quarter of an hour. Of course, that's providing they don't last for 10 minutes each time.
Oh, quite. And are you interested in attending any of the special promotions for the new station?
Yes, I'd be happy to. as long as they're held on the campus or nearby.
OK, I'll note that down. And finally, may we put you on our mailing list?
Well, I prefer not, except for the information about the promotions you just mentioned.
OK. Can I have your name and address?
Of course. I have a card I can give you.
Oh, great. And thanks a lot for your time, and we look forward to seeing you.
Yeah, sure. Thanks.
That is the end of part 3. You now have half a minute to check your answers.
Let's move to part 4. You will hear a lecture about the history of money. First, you have some time to look at questions 31 to 34. Now listen carefully and answer questions 31 to 34.
As we continue our series on customs and traditions that influence the values and principles of all societies in the world, today we're going to talk about money. It is easy to think of money as just an economic tool in the world of finance, but it also has a social and psychological dimension. It is woven into the fabric of our society and thinking, and as such has, through history, despite people's criticism of its pursuit, helped lay down the standards and the ethics that govern modern society. First of all, to look at the history of money, we need to ask ourselves what money is. Money is, in fact, an invention of the human mind, which is made possible because we, as human beings, are able to give value to symbols. And money is one of the most important symbols in all societies because it represents the value of goods and services. If we accept any object as money, say a gold coin or a digital bank account balance, both the user and the wider community have to agree to this. So all the money that we use today has not just an economic dimension, but a psychological and a social one as well. Before we look at so-called commodity money, with the introduction of coins and representative money, let's go back to the time of bartering. Before money was invented, bartering was the main way to exchange goods. An individual who had something of value, such as some grain, could directly exchange the grain for another item, which was seen to have an equivalent value, like a small animal or a tool. The seller of the grain, of course, had to find someone who wanted to buy it, and who could offer in return something the seller wanted to buy. There was no common medium of exchange, such as money, into which both seller and buyer could convert the commodities they wanted to trade.
Before you listen to the rest of the recording, you have some time to look at questions 35 to 40. Now listen carefully and answer questions 35 to 40.
So the first stage in the evolution of money was commodity money. This involved accepting objects or commodities, such as grain or metals or animals, as being inherently valuable, so they could be used as a common standard of measure and unit of exchange. People could accept any of these objects as money because they had inherent use value for every individual, and therefore they would be widely accepted by other people. All metals were accepted because they could be easily converted into precious tools, for instance, axes and spades. Metals such as gold and silver also had secondary advantages. They were also easy to identify and visually attractive. Gold, silver, copper, as well as other usable objects such as salt and peppercorns, are categorized as commodity money, since they combine the attributes both of a usable commodity and a symbol. So people accepted foods and metals as money because they were sure of their value to themselves and to other people. Then came metal coins, which were another step in the evolution from usable commodities such as grains to symbolic forms of money. Metal had a use value of its own, but coins became accepted in trade for their symbolic value. They acted as a standard measure for exchanging other goods and services of value, rather than for the use of the metal they contained. The next stage in the evolution of money is that of representative money. Representative money is symbolic money that is based on useful commodities, such as the warehouse receipts issued by the ancient Egyptian grain banks, and more recent forms of paper currency that were backed by gold or silver. The adoption of representative money was a significant evolution in human consciousness. Psychologically, the individual had to transfer the sense of value from a usable material object to an abstract symbol. Socially, groups of people had to agree on the common usage of the same symbol. The invention of representative money then had a profound effect on the evolution of both money and society.
That is the end of part 4. You now have some time to check your answers.